Welcome to our exploration of a profound legal inquiry in Talmudic law, found in Masechet Chullin Daf Kaf Zayin Amud Beit Ad Daf Kaf Chet Amud Aleph. Today we investigate a fascinating question. What are the requirements for the ritual slaughter of a bird? This is not merely a technical question. It becomes a gateway to understanding the nature of Torah SheBe'al Peh and its relationship to Torah SheB'Chtav. Let us begin our journey from Enigma to resolution. Before we can understand the enigma of the bird, we must first establish what we already know about Shechita. The world of Shechita divides clearly into two categories. First, the behema. For land animals, the requirement is precise. 2 simanim must be cut, the kaneh and the veshet. This is the established Torah standard for land animals. Second, the dag. For fish, the requirement is 0 simanim. No shechita is required at all. The proof text comes from Bamidbar 11:22. The verse contrasts the slaughter of flocks and herds with a mere gathering of fish from the sea. These are the two known categories. Animals require 2 simanim. Fish require nothing. But what about birds? Now we arrive at the central enigma. The offsets suspended between two worlds. On one side, the animal requiring 2 simanim. On the other side, the fish requiring 0 simanim. The bird is caught in the middle. What are the requirements for a bird? Does it follow the law of the land, the law of the sea, or something else entirely? This is our puzzle, and the Gemara will guide us through multiple theories, textual conflicts, and legal arguments to reach a resolution. Kappara teaches a brilliant solution based on the structure of a pasuk. The evidence comes from Vayikra 11:46. Zot Torat habehema ve'ha'of. This is the law of the animal, and of the bird, and of every living creature that moves in the waters. The reasoning: the Torah intentionally places the bird between the animal and the fish. The bird is juxtaposed with both. To require 2 simanim is impossible, because the bird is already juxtaposed with fish, which requires none. To require nothing is also impossible, because the bird is juxtaposed with animals, which requires 2. How, then, is fitness accomplished? The answer: it is rendered fit with a cutting of 1 siman. The bird occupies a middle ground between land and sea. En Over Gelila offers a corroborating theory based on the logic of creation itself. Animals were created from dry land. They require 2 simanim. Birds were created from arekak, mud, a combination of dry land and water. They require 1 siman. Fish were created from water. They require nothing. Supporting physical evidence from Rav Shmuel of Cappadocia, know that birds were created from a combination of dry land and water, as they have scales on their feet like fish. This theory beautifully maps biology to halacha. Were birds actually created from mud? The Torah itself seems to give conflicting answers. Breshit 1:20 states, "Let the waters swarm, and birds will fly." This suggests creation from water. But Breshit 2:19 states, "And from the ground the Lord God formed every bird of the air." This suggests creation from land. Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai was asked this question by a Roman official. He gave the diplomatic answer: they were created from the mud, harekak. But then he saw his students confused. He said, "Does it trouble you that I dismissed a enemy with a flimsy pretext?" His actual view: birds were created from water. The verse mentioning ground is only because they were brought to Adam from the ground to be named. Now the Gemara introduces a shocking challenge. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Pinchas, slaughter of a bird is not obligatory by Torah law. The proof comes from Vayikra 17:13. Who traps any undomesticated animal or bird that may be eaten, he shall spill its blood, and cover it in earth. The verse says spill, not slaughter. For birds, the Torah only requires any form of bloodletting. The requirement of Shechita with 1 siman is midivrei sofrim, not Torah law. This appends the entire investigation. Kappara and the Galilean teacher, when discovering QX's Torah law, They were constructing textual hints to support a rabbinic enactment. The Gemara immediately objects. If mere spilling is sufficient, what about the chaya mentioned in the same verse? No, an undomesticated animal is compared elsewhere to disqualified sacred animals, which explicitly require slaughter. But the FOLOWQ question, and what did you see that led you to apply he shall spill to the case of a bird? Why not apply it to the undomesticated animal? It stands to reason due to the fact that the verse concluded with a bird. The verse states, undomesticated animal or bird, he shall spill it blood. The bird is mentioned immediately before the directive to spill. The Gemara brings evidence to challenge the theory of Rav Yehuda. A Mishnah states that one who performs an invalid slaughter on an animal by stabbing or ripping is exempt from covering the blood. If Rav Yehuda is correct that any spilling like stabbing is valid for a bird, then the blood of a stabbed bird should require covering. This Mishnah seems to prove that stabbing is not a valid method, thus disproving the theory of Rav Yehuda. The Mishnah isn't talking about birds at all. Do you maintain that this Mishnah is referring to a bird? No, it is referring exclusively to an undomesticated animal. A Baraita teaches that if someone eats an animal's blood and not the meat, they can stab it to avoid the obligation of covering the blood. This implies stabbing is an invalid method, otherwise the blood would require covering. The Baraita is assumed to be speaking of birds, as one might require bird's blood to remove a moth from his garments. This again suggests that proper slaughter is the only valid method for birds by Torah law. No, the Baraita is referring to an undomesticated animal, as he requires its blood to use as a red dye, lelaka. A Mishnah from Masechet Zvachim discusses a sacrificial bird. If its neck is cut with a knife instead of the prescribed pinching, the bird's carcass renders garments ritually impure. This Mishnah is undeniably about a bird. It states that even a proper slaughter with a knife is invalid for this specific ritual context, making the bird equivalent to an unslaughtered carcass, a nevela. If any spilling were valid by Tevorah law, the knife siyuti should at least prevent it from becoming a nevela, but it doesn't. This Mishnah proves that a specific form of killing is required by Torah law for a bird, directly contradicting the theory of Rav Yehuda. How can Rav Yehuda maintain his position against the powerful evidence from this Mishnah? The answer is elegant. He is not arguing against that Mishnah. He is following a different authority entirely. Rabbi Elazar Kappara taught in a Baraita that a scriptural juxtaposition teaches us a critical distinction. Just as disqualified consecrated animals are rendered fit for consumption through slaughter, so too, a gazelle and a deer are rendered fit for consumption only through slaughter. But for a bird, slaughter is not obligatory by Torah law. Rather, the obligation is by rabbinic law. According to Rabbi Elazar Kappara, bird slaughter is midivrei sofrim, a rabbinic enactment, not Tevorah law. This is the source for the position of Rav Yehuda. So who is the te'ana behind the Mishnah that requires bird slaughter by Torah law? Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, also known as Rabbi. Devarim 12:21 states, "And you shall slaughter, as I have commanded you." The phrase "as I have commanded you" refers to oral laws given to Moshe at Sinai that are not written in the Torah. This oral law included the specific requirements, the majority of one siman for a bird, and the majority of two simanim for an animal. According to Rabbi, these requirements come directly from Moshe at Sinai. They are Torah law transmitted orally, not rabbinic enactments. We now see the complete picture. There are two schools of thought, two competing verdicts on the nature of bird slaughter. According to Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, bird slaughter is Torah law, an oral command given to Moshe at Sinai. The requirement is slaughter of one siman. The arguments from juxtaposition and creation are seen as attempts to find textual hints for this curious SNG oral law. His core text is "As I have commanded you" from Devarim 12:21. According to Rabbi Elazar Kappara and Rav Yehuda, the source of law is rabbinic. By Torah law, only spilling of the blood is required. Slaughter of one siman is midivrei sofrim. The plain meaning of the text is paramount. Their core text is, "He shall spill it blood," from Vayikra 17:13. We conclude with a profound insight about the nature of Talmudic inquiry. The objective of the Talmud is not always to declare a single winner. It is to map the entire landscape of valid legal reasoning. The Gemara presents us with two paths, two legitimate schools of thought. Is it an unwritten oral tradition passed down from Sinai? This is the school of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. Or is it derived directly from the plain meaning of the written text? This is the school of Rabbi Elazar Kappara. By tracing the debate to its source, the Gemara illuminates the core principles that animate Jewish law, turning a legal question to a profound exploration of revelation, text, and tradition. We learn not just what the law is, but why different authorities understand it differently, and what that tells us about the very nature of Torah itself.